Hello everyone, this is Kat and welcome back to My Hero Academia Podfics. Today I'll be reading a short fic entitled Fast Forward Reverse. Here's the summary. Shoto and Izuku turn up at the 1A dorms as 4-year-olds, while Aizawa and the others work to find a solution. The two boys navigate an exciting new world. Meanwhile, their classmates and teachers learn secrets that both boys have been hiding for years. Chapter 1. Rewind. Izuku doesn't know how he got here. The last thing he remembers is going to sleep in his room after his mom had let him watch his favorite All Might video. But now, Izuku is staring at a group of teenagers who all look shocked in a place that he doesn't recognize, and there's another little boy with him as well. The other boy is terrified, shaking and staring in fear at the others around them, and Izuku feels a surge of protectiveness. He doesn't know what's going on, but if he's going to be a hero like All Might, then he's going to protect this boy. Todoroki, Midoriya, one of the big kids says, and it makes them both stiffen. How did these strangers know their names? Izuku turns to the other little boy who's trembling even harder now, and he has really cool hair, red on one side and white on the other, and his eyes are two different colors. He looks about Izuku's age, so Izuku figures that they can be friends. He reaches over to take the other boy's hand, squeezing it to reassure him. "Who are you?" Izuku asks the other kids, his voice wavering with fear despite his conviction. "How did we get here? How do you know my name?" Izuku wonders if Todoroki is the other little boy with him. He decides it doesn't matter right now, as long as the other boy is safe. Some of the big kids exchange nervous looks before a girl with brown hair kneels down in front of them, looking gentle and kind. Izuku relaxes a fraction. "My name is Ochako," she says quietly. "You might not remember right now, but we're friends. It looks like a quirk made you two forget some important things, but I promise you're safe. You're at UA right now." Izuku's eyes boggle out of his head. "UA? The hero school? Whoa, I have to tell Kachan." There's some whispering at this, and a tall blonde boy with very familiar red eyes steps out from the back of the group, looking down at Izuku with folded arms. Izuku's mouth drops open. "Kachan?" he says in awe. "How? You're so big." Kachan kneels down, looking at Izuku with a sigh. "Deku, you always get yourself in the dumbest fucking situations. You too, Todoroki." The other boy gasps, hiding behind Izuku as he shakes with fear. "It's okay, Todoroki," Izuku says, stumbling over Todoroki's name. "Kachan looks scary, but he's really nice, I promise." Todoroki doesn't say anything, just stays behind Izuku, their hands still clasped together. "You can call me Shoto," Shoto says very softly, so soft that no one but Izuku could hear. Izuku nods, turning to give Shoto a hug, pleased when the other boy relaxes into his arms. "You're safe, Shoto," Izuku says firmly. "Mom says UA is a good school, and the pro heroes that teach her are good, and Kachan's the best, so we're all right." Shoto nods, hiding his face against Izuku's shoulder. "I'm gonna get in trouble." "In trouble?" Izuku asks, forgetting about the big kids that are watching them. "From who?" Shoto looks terrified before whispering. "My dad. He's gonna find me. He'll be so mad. Shoto puts a hand over his mouth, and Izuku's horrified to see his new friend start to tear up. It makes Izuku tear up also, and soon the two of them are crying, not hearing the panicked teenagers behind them calling to get a teacher to help. "What on earth is going on here?" An adult voice says, and Izuku looks up, his eyes practically boggling out of his skull as he wipes away his own tears. He stammers, looking up at the man who just walked in the room. "You're Eraserhead. Shoto, this is the pro hero Eraserhead. He can take away people's quirks. What are you doing here, Mr. Eraserhead, sir?" Eraserhead shifts completely, his previously angry expression switching to something gentle. Izuku feels more at ease. He still has Shoto's hand in his own, which is making him feel a lot better. "That's right, kid," Eraserhead says gently. "I'm a teacher at UA. This is the dorm where Class 1A lives. Do you know how you both got here?" Izuku shakes his head. I was watching All Might on the computer, and then I fell asleep, and then I was here." Shoto seems petrified as he stares at the pro hero, unable to say anything at all. Eraserhead watches him for a moment, but Shoto eventually ducks behind Izuku again, seemingly too afraid to say anything. "All right," Eraserhead says calmly. "I know this must be very scary, but we're heroes, and we're going to help you. I'd like to take you to UA's nurse, recovery girl. She can make sure that you're both healthy, and we'll figure out what we can do from there, all right?" Izuku nods, Too excited about the prospect of seeing Recovery Girl to think of much else, Shoto is still silent, trembling behind Izuku like a leaf. Izuku just knows that he wants to meet more heroes and protect his new friend and hopefully see his mom. I can't. Shoto chokes out, and Izuku turns to see his new friend shaking. He looks halfway to an anxiety attack, and Izuku knows what those looks like, and he and his mom both get them. Why can't you? Eraserhead asks, calmly, with no anger in his voice. Shoto trembles again, looking petrified at the pro-hero, keeping his hand locked in Izuku's. Mom, I have to wait for Mom. She says she has to know where I am all the time, to keep me safe. Eraserhead looks at him for a long moment before Kacchan interrupts them with a quiet, Sensei. Izuku can't hear what Kacchan says to Eraserhead, but he watches the pro-hero nod stiffly, his back rigid as Kacchan talks to him. Izuku takes the moment to hug Shoto, letting the other boy cry onto his shoulder. I want Mom, Izuku thinks, trying not to cry again. He's so confused. Kacchan is bigger, and he's just wound up at UA? Could this be some kind of dream, or some kind of quirk, and what does Shoto have to do with all this? Come on, you two, Eraserhead says gently, holding out his hands. Shoto gasps, hiding behind Izuku and refusing to take the hero's hand. Izuku just stares at Eraserhead, the reality of the situation finally hitting him as his eyes start to well with tears. Where is my mom? He asks as the tears start falling down his cheeks. Why aren't you telling us how we got here? This isn't right, is it? Something's the matter. Eraserhead sighs, pulling his hands back with a tired expression. Smart as ever. Okay. You're right, Izuku. Something isn't right. Do you two see all these hero students behind you? Izuku nods, looking at the UA students with confusion before looking back to Eraserhead. Well, those are your classmates, Eraserhead explains calmly. You two were hit with a quirk. You both normally are older, and hero students at UA. Izuku's mouth falls open, looking over at Kacchan with surprise. Honestly, it makes more sense than anything else. Is that why you're so big, Kacchan? Izuku asks. Is my quirk cool? I don't have my quirk yet, so I don't know what it is. Kacchan's face spasms before he sighs. Yeah, it's pretty fucking cool, Deku. Izuku beams, feeling his heart swell with happiness. He is training to be a hero, just like he always wanted, and just like All Might. Kacchan said his quirk was cool. He can't wait to see what it is. He's distracted from these thoughts when Shoto starts whimpering behind him, dropping Izuku's hand. Izuku turns to see his new friend making odd gasping noises and clutching at his chest. Shoto! Izuku cries. What's wrong? Does your chest hurt? Before anything happens, Eraserhead swoops in and kneels down in front of Shoto, eyes calm and kind. Izuku starts crying, scared by the wheezing sounds that Shoto's making. Kacchan steps over and picks Izuku up, and he buries his face against Kacchan's chest as he cries. It's really scary hearing Shoto make those sounds. Shoto, you're having a panic attack, Eraserhead says steadily. I know it feels scary, but nothing bad is happening. I want you to listen to me and follow my breathing. Izuku cries into Kacchan's chest while Eraserhead calms Shoto down. Eventually, the awful noises stop, and Izuku looks up to see Eraserhead holding a shaking Shoto in his arms. Bakugo, carry Izuku. I've got Shoto. We're going to Recovery Girl. In Recovery Girl's office, Izuku and Shoto have both calmed down. She checked them over for injuries, said lots of things about how she couldn't fix the quirk that made them little, and gave them each a small piece of candy. Shoto's exhausted looking, his red-rimmed eyes from crying as he lays down into a cot in the office. While the adults are talking, Izuku walks over and lays down next to his new friend, cuddling close to him. Shoto stiffens for a second before turning around and slinging an arm over Izuku. They are certainly adorable like that, Recovery Girl sighs from where she's talking with Eraserhead. Bakugo, thank you very much for your help. You can return to your dorm now. Izuku hears a door open and close after a moment, and the sound of someone sitting down in a chair. Shoto is asleep, and Izuku has his eyes closed, so he decides to pretend that he's asleep, too. Maybe the grown-ups will say important things if they think that he's not listening. I don't know how to fix this. Eraserhead sighs, running a hand through his hair. Eri, she's not lost control of her quirk in so long. We're lucky that she managed to stop herself before she rewound them both completely. How did it happen? Recovery Girl asks, and Izuku feels someone drape a blanket over him and Shoto, snuggling into the other boy. Shoto and Izuku were taking her to a movie night in Heights Alliance, so they stopped by our place. Eri was having a nightmare, and Izuku apparently went to console her, but In her distressed state, she lost control of her quirk. They both happen to be there. She's distraught right now. Hizashi and Hitoshi are both with her. A silence, and then... Not to tell you how to parent Aizawa, but shouldn't you be there? You're the only one who can stop her if her quirk gets out of control again. She'll be fine now that she's awake. Eraserhead sighs. But I'll go home soon. In the meantime, we have to reach out to some other agencies, possibly out of the country. So far, Aries' quirk doesn't seem to have a time limit, which means that if we can't find someone with a quirk opposite to hers, Izuku and Shoto might have to grow up all over again. Izuku falls asleep to the sound of Recovery Girl and Eraserhead's worried voices. When Izuku wakes up, he feels something very warm pressed against his side, and he turns to see Shoto sleeping beside him. Everything comes rushing back, and he remembers that he's been turned little, strange, and is now living at UA with his new friend, which is exciting. The only bad part is that he doesn't remember anything, and he still hasn't seen his mom yet. Izuku sits up, rubbing his eyes as he yawns. The sun's still rising, and he hears the sound of an adult snoring nearby, looking to see Recovery Girl's fallen asleep at her desk. Izuku winces, carefully sliding off the bed to grab an extra blanket from a shelf in the corner, unfolding it and clumsily putting it around her shoulders. Shoto wakes up to the sounds of rustling blankets, eyes blinking with confusion as he looks around, gaze finally falling on Izuku. In the night, someone had changed them into tiny nurse's scrubs for pajamas, and Izuku can see Shoto's confusion at the entire situation. "Good morning," Izuku whispers cheerfully, climbing back onto the bed with Shoto. "Do you remember me? I'm Izuku Midoriya." "Shoto Todoroki," Shoto says softly after a long moment. "Are we really at UA, Izuku?" Izuku nods, reaching over to squeeze Shoto's hands. "Uh-huh. Eraserhead and Recovery Girl took care of us last night, but now I'm bored. Do you want to go explore with me?" Shoto shrinks back, looking as scared as he whispers. Won't we get in trouble?" "I don't think so," Izuku whispers excitedly, tapping his chin. "Eraserhead said that we're really UA students, so we should be allowed to walk around, right?" Shoto considers this for a moment before nodding. Izuku beams, carefully wriggling out of the bed. In their tiny scrubs and without shoes, they look even younger, both of them taking the other's hand as they head to the door of the medical wing. Izuku slides it open, mouth dropping when he looks down the long hallway. "Come on, let's go," he says excitedly, and they head out of the room. They stare at everything in the halls with awe, both never having been in a place like this before. "Shoto, will you be my best friend?" Izuku asks out of the blue, missing Shoto's eyes widen in surprise. "I mean, I have Kachan as a best friend, but you can have two best friends." Shoto looks at Izuku like he'd bestowed a great honor on him, and he nods solemnly. "I'd love to be your best friend. I've never had a friend, not outside of my siblings." "Then we'll be best friends forever," Izuku squeals, pulling Shoto into a tight hug. "Come on, let's run." Shoto looks at Izuku and smiles, which makes Izuku beam. Their hands are tight together as they run down the hallway, laughing and generally having fun. Neither of them notice a person walking down the hall toward them, and they smack directly into their legs, both falling over. "What's this?" a man's voice asks, and Izuku looks up to see a very skinny man with blue eyes and blonde hair staring at them in shock. "Young Midoriya? Todoroki, is that you?" Izuku feels a little anxious, as he doesn't recognize this adult. He knew Eraserhead and Recovery Girl, but this is a new person. He has a hard time with strangers. Shoto stiffened next to him as well, and Izuku can tell that his new best friend is also a little wary. "Forgive me, you must be frightened," the man says with a kind smile. "Here, I'll show you something that'll make you feel better. It's a secret, though." They both watch the man, and Izuku's eyes widen to the size of saucers when the skinny man poofs and turns into All Might right in front of them. All Might grins at them both for a few seconds until he turns back into the skinny man, coughing a little bit. "All Might!" Izuku gasps, practically vibrating. "All Might! Shoto! It's All Might!" Shoto staring at All Might like he hung the stars in the sky, and Izuku's jumping up and down, more excited than he's ever been in his life as he begins to babble off questions. "All Might, why are you skinny? Is it because you have a secret identity? Do you call yourself All Might when you're skinny? How does your quirk work? Are you a teacher at UA like Eraserhead?" All Might just laughs, crouching down and smiling at them both. "Curious as ever, young Midoriya. Well, yes, I am a teacher at UA, your teacher, in fact. I call myself Yagi when I'm skinny like this, which is sort of a secret identity. The way that my quirk works is a secret. Now, why don't the two of you come with me? Lunch rush is getting started on breakfast." As if on cue, Izuku's stomach growls loudly. He turns to Shoto to blush, but Shoto is staring at All Might with his eyes sparkling. He lets go of Izuku's hand, and he walks over to the hero, putting a hand on his leg as he stares up at All Might's face. All Might, Shoto says softly, his face hopeful. All Might, can you please take me away with you? I don't want to go home. Izuku's confused by that, but All Might winces, suddenly looking a bit more serious. Why is that, young Todoroki? Shoto looks down at the floor, mumbling. Because my dad is scary. He hurts Mama and Toya, and Toya says Dad'll hurt me too once I get my quirk. I don't want Dad to hurt me. He's really mean, All Might, sir. He makes Mama sad and everyone cry. All Might looks pained as he puts a very, very gentle hand on Shoto's head. I'm sorry that you're going through that, little one. I promise I'll keep you very safe. Do you understand? And you too, young Midoriya. Izuku looks at Shoto with wide eyes, not answering All Might. Your dad is scary too? He asks quietly, Shoto turning to look at him as Izuku continues to talk. My daddy breathes fire, and it scares Mom. He burned me and she yelled at him and then he never came back. Maybe we should yell at your dad. Yelling's scary, Shoto mumbles, leaning forward to hug All Might's leg. Want to stay with All Might instead. Izuku can understand that, walking over to hug All Might's other leg. Yeah, you're the best hero in the world, All Might. All Might looks a little unsure of what to do with his charges, so he just stands. Each of the boys are gripping onto a different one of his legs, and Shoto and Izuku both giggle as All Might begins to walk slowly, each of them attached to a leg as he moves them down the hall. They're distracted from how silly it is to be clinging to All Might that they miss the hero pulling out his phone to send a quick text. Once they make it back to Recovery Girl's office, a very tired-looking Eraserhead is waiting for them outside the door. Izuku hops off of All Might's leg and runs over, tugging on the hem of Eraserhead's shirt. Good morning, Mr. Eraserhead, Izuku says, looking left and right before leaning in dramatically and whispering. We found All Might. I see, Eraserhead says calmly before locking eyes with the other hero. Sounds like you two had an adventurous morning. Recovery Girl's been looking all over for you two. Listen, All Might has to talk to me about something very important, so how about you two go back inside the office and play? I think Recovery Girl has some stuffed animals in there. Izuku gasps and tugs Shoto's hand as they rush into the room. They find some teddy bears on the counter and pull them down, each hugging one as they sit on the floor. Recovery Girl isn't in the office, so they settle on the floor to play, Izuku keeping an ear out for the whispers. Todoroki said what? Eraserhead snaps in a whisper to All Might. Shit, that makes everything more complicated. It's not just him, All Might murmurs. Midoriya mentioned... The conversation's too quiet for Izuku to follow, so he turns back to Shoto as they begin to play with the teddy bears, Izuku pretending that his is All Might. Detroit Smash! Izuku giggles, lobbing the bear at the wall and watching it bounce off. Did you see that, Sho? The bear did All Might's special move. Shoto nods with a small smile. I like All Might and Eraserhead. They're very nice for pro heroes. Have you met any other pro heroes before? Izuku shakes his head. But I want to meet all of them. Now I've met Eraserhead, All Might, Recovery Girl. That's 3 heroes. How about you? Shoto looks sad all of a sudden, looking down toward the stuffed bear in his lap. My dad is Endeavor. Izuku's mouth drops open, looking at his new friend in shock. Really? Your dad's a pro? What's that like? Is he nice? Endeavor seems kind of scary on TV, but he also sort of reminds me of my dad, which isn't his fault. He is scary, Shoto whispers quietly, clutching the bear. He's not very nice. He's mean to villains, but he's mean to us, too. Izuku frowns, remembering earlier when Shoto had said that his dad was mean and scary to their family, and he feels bad for his friend. Izuku grabs the bear that he Detroit smashed into the wall, and he comes to sit by Shoto, reaching over to pat his friend's head gently. It'll be okay, Izuku says seriously. All Might and Eraserhead know about it now, so they'll keep you safe. I bet that you never have to see your mean dad ever again. Shoto's eyes sparkle with hope. Really? You think so? I know so, Izuku says firmly. Because even if they can't do anything, my mom is the best, and she'd take you. You could stay in my room. I have a lot of cool toys that you can play with. Boys, a gentle voice says, and they look up to see a fond Recovery Girl looking at them along with Eraserhead and All Might. The heroes had a big, long talk about you, and we've decided that you're going to go ahead and stay with Eraserhead for a little while. He lives on campus with Present Mike and a little girl just a bit older than you named Terry. Does that sound okay? Izuku's eyes are practically boggling out of his head at the mention of another pro. Shoto looks equally stunned, and although Izuku's not sure if it's for the same reason. Present Mike? Izuku nearly screeches, standing up and jumping excitedly. I love Present Mike. He has a cool radio show that he calls everyone listener, and his quirk is so cool. Did you know that he can release a sonic boom? Also, his hair stands up straight because of the force of the sound waves that he emits. Oh, I know he knows 3 languages, Japanese and English and sign. Seems Sasashi's got a little fan. Eraserhead smirks, kneeling down in front of them. You two ready? You can take the bears with you. Recovery Girl has to stay here, but you two should thank her for watching you all night. Shoto looks at Recovery Girl and bows respectfully, the stuffed bear still clutched in his hands. Izuku follows suit, wanting to be polite to the nice hero who had let them sleep there all night. You two can keep those bears, Recovery Girl smiles. I'll ask Creaty to make some new ones on her off time. Aizawa, are you sure you've got them? You already have a little one. Hitoshi can help, Eraserhead says, and Izuku realizes that the hero's name must be Aizawa. He's in on this whole situation. All Might, thanks again, I've got them from here. Aizawa leans down and picks both of them up, one in each arm as they clutch onto their stuffed bears. Izuku's suddenly very tired, leaning against Aizawa's shoulder as his eyes droop closed, letting him fall asleep in the hero's arms. They're so small, a voice says, and Izuku blinks. Rubbing his eyes, he looks around to see that he's laying on a futon with Shoto on the floor of an apartment that he doesn't recognize. Aizawa standing in the kitchen talking to a tired-looking teenager with purple hair. A girl with silver hair is holding onto Aizawa's hand, looking scared and sad. Shoto is snoring, his face smashed into Izuku's legs. The teddy bears from Recovery Girl are on the futon with him, and Izuku almost squeals with delight when he sees a sleeping orange cat that's curled up on the edge of the futon. They appear to be laid out in a living room. All of this pales when another person steps out of the office and Izuku gasps. Present Mike! Present Mike! He squeals, jumping up and jostling Shoto awake. Izuku rushes over to the blonde pro-hero, jumping up and down in front of him. You're Present Mike! Izuku screeches. You're so cool! I listen to your radio show every night before I go to bed. How do you keep your voice quirk from wrecking everyone's radios? Do you think that if everyone in the world turned into your radio station and you unleashed a sonic boom that it would destroy all the radios in the world? Present Mike starts laughing, leaning down to ruffle Izuku's hair. You're a pretty cool kid, little listener. Hey, Izuku, have you met our kids yet? Izuku's jaw is practically on the floor. Mr. Present Mike, sir, you know my name? Shoto, Present Mike knows my name. Shoto is staring at Present Mike with the kind of awe that little kids have when seeing a mall Santa Claus, and the purple-haired teenager snorts a laugh. Wow, Midori is even more hero-obsessed at this age, geez. He snorts, leaning back onto the counter. Wouldn't have expected the same from Todoroki. Shoto has walked over next to Izuku, both of them still staring at Present Mike, Shoto with awe and Izuku with excitement. Present Mike seems endeared, kneeling down in front of them both with a smile. Can you two keep a secret? Present Mike whispers dramatically, and they both nod. He looks to the side before grinning and stage whispering. I'm married to Eraserhead. You call him Aizawa. My name is Sasashi. We have 2 kids, Hitoshi and Eri. Izuku nearly explodes at learning another pro-hero's name, but he's distracted by the little girl, Eri, at Aizawa's side, that's walking over to them both. I'm sorry, Eri says sadly, looking at both of them. She's twisting her hands together, looking like she might cry, and Izuku feels bad. Shoto tilts his head curiously before asking, Why? Because I did this to you, Eri cries, rubbing at her eyes. It's my fault you're small again. I'm so sorry. Izuku walks over and reaches up to gently pat the girl's hair. It's okay. We're fine. And you didn't mean to, right? Shoto and I don't remember being big, so it doesn't really bother us. Please don't cry. Shoto nods with agreement, stepping forward and pulling Eri into a hug. Eri throws her arms around him, and Izuku hugs them both, glad that Eri isn't crying anymore. Chapter 2. Fast forward. Later that night, Aizawa and Hisashi feed them dinner and help them brush their teeth. They have extra pajamas for Eri, putting them in sweatpants and t-shirts, tucking them in on the futon in the living room. Aizawa leaves the kitchen light on so that it's not totally dark, and Izuku and Shoto try to fall asleep, the others in their respective rooms. Shoto, Izuku whispers, are you asleep? Shoto shifts under the blankets, peeking his head out. No, I'm awake. Izuku sits up, feeling a little unsettled. It's the second night that he's spent without his mom, and the excitement of meeting all the pro-heroes is starting to wear off. He wants to go home. He wants his room and his mom, and to sleep in his own bed. He starts sniffling, wiping at his eyes, and Shoto's looking at him with worry. Are you all right? Shoto asks, putting a hand on his shoulder. You look sad. Izuku keeps wiping at his tears, trying to stop from crying. I want my mom. I'm scared. I want to go home. Izuku starts crying for real then, as Shoto leans over to hug him. Izuku cries into his friend's shoulder, comforted by the closeness. He wants his mom, and he wants this to be over, to be safe at home. Hey, it's all right, little listener. A soft voice murmurs, making them both look up. It's Present Mike, Hisashi, and his hair is down and he's in pajamas, looking them both over very gently. Can I pick you up, little guy? He asks, and Izuku nods. Hisashi sits down on the futon, gently scooping Izuku up into his arms and holding him to his chest. Shoto scoots closer to Hisashi, putting a hand on his leg, while Izuku buries his face against the hero. Everything's going to be all right, Hisashi murmurs, rubbing Izuku's back. I know things are really scary and confusing right now, but I promise everything will be okay. Izuku hiccups against Hisashi's chest, curling his fingers into his shirt. I want Mama. I know, honey, Hisashi soothes, reaching down to put a gentle hand on Shoto's back as well. I know you both do. I promise we'll explain everything in the morning. Right now, though, it's really important for you kiddos to get some sleep. Hisashi gently lays Izuku back down, tucking him and Shoto up to the blankets and staying until they fall asleep. When Izuku wakes up, it's morning time, and Shoto's awake and Eri and Hitoshi are in the living room, talking to Shoto. Izuku sits up and rubs his eyes, feeling exhausted from crying so much the night before. Breakfast, a cheerful Hisashi calls, putting down plates of waffles at the table. Come on, kids. They all eagerly sit down. Izuku's mouth is watering at the stacks of waffles on his plate. Hitoshi pours a bunch of syrup on them at Izuku's request, and he begins to eat them with enthusiasm. It's delicious, and he shares a happy look with Shoto as they stuff their faces. Easy, kid. Hitoshi laughs and handing Izuku a napkin. Man, you're a messy guy, huh? Aizawa smiles at them both before sharing a look with Hisashi. Izuku, Shoto, Aizawa says quietly, getting their attention. We realize we haven't told you much about what's happening to you, and we think it's only fair that we answer any questions that you have. Izuku shares a look with Shoto before looking back at Aizawa. Well, I want to see my mom. Why isn't she here? Hisashi winces, but Aizawa answers calmly. Remember, Izuku, you're not actually a little kid. You're 16, and your mom looks a lot different. We thought it might be upsetting for you to see her and have her look so different than you're expecting. Where's my dad? Shoto asks very softly, sounding scared. Izuku reaches over to hold his friend's hand, knowing that talking about his dad makes him sad. Endeavor is not aware of your predicament, Aizawa says calmly. Given what you told us, Shoto, we decided not to tell him yet. Is there anyone that you would like us to tell, either of you? Izuku thinks hard before saying, Just Mama. My mom, Shoto says softly. And Toya, and Fuyumi and Natsuo too. All right, Aizawa replies. We can call them later and talk to them on the phone. Would you like that? Izuku and Shoto nod, and Izuku feels relieved. He's going to talk to his mom later, which makes him feel a lot better. After breakfast is cleaned up, Hitoshi takes Eri out with Aizawa, and Hisashi stays with them to make the phone calls. They call Izuku's mom first. Hisashi had informed her of the situation, so she's aware. Hello? Izuku baby, is that you? Inko Midoriya's voice says as Izuku beams. Mom! Mom! He squeals. Mama, I miss you. Are you okay? Oh, sweetie, I'm fine. I'm just fine. She coos. I miss you too. You got into a little bit of trouble, huh? Your teacher says you're 4 now, is that right? Huh? Izuku giggles. And Mama, I saw Kachan. He's really big, and he says that I have a cool quirk, and I go to UA, and I'm going to be a hero. Isn't that cool, Mama? Very cool. She laughs. Izuku, honey, are you all right? Are you scared or sad? Izuku thinks for a moment before responding. No. I was last night, but Present Mike made me feel better. And Shoto. That makes me glad to hear, and that you have nice people helping you. I love you, sweetheart. I'll call you tomorrow, okay? All right, Mama, I love you too. Izuku feels infinitely better after the phone call with his mom, smiling over at Shoto, who doesn't look very happy. Izuku wonders if he's worried about the phone call with his family. Now it's your turn, Shoto. Hisashi beams, looking up, something on his computer before a little frown crosses his face. Don't worry, little ones, I'm just having trouble finding Rei Todoroki's contact information. Shoto, is it all right if we call Fuyumi? She can probably connect us to your mom. Shoto nods, and Izashi makes the call. He explains the situation to Fuyumi just like he had with Inko before passing the phone to Shoto. "Shoto, is that you?" Fuyumi's voice asks anxiously. "Hi," Shoto replies softly, sounding a little shy. "Fuyumi, where's Mom? Present Mike couldn't find her number." Oh, Shoto, sweetie," Fuyumi stammers. "Mom is... She's okay, but she's in the hospital right now. She can't talk to you on the phone." Shoto freezes, his face pinched and unhappy. Can I talk to Toya? I want to talk to Toya." There's a hitching breath over the phone, and Izashi blanches when Fuyumi starts crying. "Shoto, I'm so sorry," she chokes out. "You can't talk to Toya. He's not around anymore. Sho, listen carefully. Does Dad know about this, about you being little?" Shoto stiffens. "No." "Good, that's good." Fuyumi exhales shakily. "Listen, I know this is really confusing and probably scary, but it's really important that you don't tell Dad what's going on. If you need anything, have your teacher call me or Natsuo, okay? Until the quirk wears off, you're safe at UA." Shoto digests this information before he asks. "Where's Toya? You said Mom was in the hospital, but where's Nii-san?" "Shoto," Fuyumi sniffs. "God, sweetheart, I don't know what to say. Toya can't see you, okay? He's not around, like I said. Can you put your teacher on the phone, please?" Shoto hands the phone to Izashi, who takes it off a speaker and says, "This is Present Mike." He listens to Fuyumi for a second before his face is dropping as he says, "I see. We'll keep that under wraps for now. Thank you." After the phone calls, Izuku's happier, but Shoto is subdued, so Izuku hands him one of the teddy bears, and they settle on the couch. Izashi puts on a movie, which enraptures both of them for a while. Eventually, Izuku hears snoring, and he turns to see that Izashi's passed out on the kitchen table in front of the two open laptops. "Sho," Izuku whispers. "Izashi's asleep, look." Shoto turns around to see the hero asleep on the table, his eyes widening. He turns back to Izuku, eyes wide. "I want to go look for Toya," Shoto whispers. "Fuyumi said that he's not around, so maybe he's lost. I want to find him." Izuku nods in understanding. If he had a missing brother, he'd want to find them too. They both quietly get off the couch, the movie still playing in the background. Tiptoeing over to the front door, Izuku and Shoto both put on pairs of Aries shoes, which mostly fit, and they quietly sneak out, closing the door behind them. "Where should we check first?" Izuku asks Shoto as they walk to the stairs, working together to push the door open. "Where would Toya go?" Shoto thinks for a long time before he finally says, "He liked to train on the mountain behind our house. Maybe he's hiding there. He goes there when he's sad or upset." "Let's check there first," Izuku agrees. By the time they get to the bottom of the stairs, they're both tired from climbing, but Shoto seems determined, sliding his hand into Izuku's as they walk out of UA's campus. They both act like they know where they're walking, but in reality they're both very lost. "Hey, look," Izuku says, pointing at the gateway in front of the school. "I bet if we go out there, we'll be able to find Toya." Shoto nods, and they both walk through the front gate. Hours later, Shoto and Izuku are tired, exhausted, and their feet hurt from wearing too big shoes. They're completely and hopelessly lost, both too scared to ask anyone for help. They're currently sitting in an alley in a part of the city that seems really scary, and neither of them know what to do. It's sitting in this defeated position that someone finds them, curled up against the alley wall. "No fucking way," a voice says, and Shoto and Izuku looked up to see a man that's in a long black coat, covered in scars and shiny metal things. "Fucking hell, Shoto, is that you?" Shoto looks hard at the guy, squinting for a moment before his face melts into an "oh" of surprise. "Toya ni?" he asks softly. "Nii-san, is that you?" The man's eyes widen, and he looks conflicted before he kneels down, staring at the tiny version of Shoto Todoroki. "Yeah," Toya says calmly. "Shit, kid. Do you remember how you got like this? You know you're older, right? And why is Minnie All Might with you?" Izuku looks at Toya with confusion. "Do you mean me?" "Yeah, you, green kid," Toya says. "So what's the deal? De-aging quirk? How old are you two?" Shoto holds up 4 fingers, his lip trembling as his eyes fill with tears. Toya's eyes looking softly at his little brother. "What's the matter, kid?" Shoto sniffs, wiping at his eyes. "Fuyumi says I can't see Mom. Something happened to her, and she said you weren't around anymore. So Izuku and I came to find you because Shoto's dad is mean and scary." Izuku cuts in, Toya's jaw clenching. "Yeah, that's the fucking truth." Toya scoffs, running a scarred hand through his spiky black hair. "Okay, kiddos. Here's the deal. This is a shitty part of town, so you two need to come with me. Both Shoto and Izuku stand up, each taking one of Toya's hands as he stares at them in surprise. Trusting brats, he sighs before tugging on them. Come on. A short walk later, Toya brings them up some stairs and into a dimly lit room. Izuku can see a wooden counter and a wall of glass bottles on the wall. Along with some tables and chairs, there's a man made of mist behind the bar and a person sitting on a stool covered in hands. Shigaraki, I picked up some strays, Toya says, tugging the two boys into the room. Looks like a de-aging quirk. Shigaraki turns, visible eye widening as he takes the hand covering his face off, staring at the two boys in surprise. It's Shoto Todoroki and Izuku Midoriya, Toya says calmly. They don't remember anything. Shigaraki grins, looking like Christmas has come early as he walks over to both boys, Shoto hiding behind Toya with a gasp. Izuku has a weird feeling looking at the guy, glancing between him and Toya. You're not nice, Izuku declares, crossing his little arms and staring at Shigaraki. Not like Toya ni. Toya bursts out laughing, and Shigaraki raises an eyebrow, looking vaguely amused. Not nice? Well, I am a villain, so I suppose not nice is an adept descriptor, Shigaraki grins. But I promise, I don't hurt kids. Anyone who hurts kids is scum. You two are safe here. Izuku nods, clinging to Toya's leg. Eventually, Toya leans down and scoops up Shoto, letting him rest against his chest, and Shoto seems to melt instantly, looking more relaxed than Izuku's seen him so far. He wants to be picked up too, looking at Shigaraki with pleading eyes. No fucking way. Shigaraki sighs, but he leans down anyways, picking Izuku up, who beams triumphantly, snuggling against the villain. Shigaraki has an odd expression on his face, holding Izuku for a moment before he turns to Toya with a sigh. We have to send them back. Why? Toya asked sharply, keeping a protective hand on Shoto's back. Because Midoriya doesn't have his quirk yet. There's nothing Sensei wants from him, Shigaraki says calmly. And your brother will only bring the wrath of Endeavor down on this place. Toya sighs, hugging Shoto close before nodding in agreement. Yeah, you're right. I can take him back to UA. Kurogiri do the honors. Shigaraki hands Izuku back to Toya, who holds both boys close to him. Izuku feels fear for a moment as dark mist surrounds them all, but soon they're right outside of the UA gates again. Toya sets them on the ground carefully, keeping a hand on Shoto's shoulder. Listen, Sho, I've got to get going, Toya says gently. You stay safe here, okay? Don't leave UA again, and whatever happens, don't go anywhere with Endeavor. I won't, Shoto says seriously. Nissan, will I see you again? Toya flinches for a moment before he sighs. Yeah, kid, you will. Now, come on, give your Nissan a hug. Shoto hugs Toya tightly before Toya eventually lets him go, kissing the top of Shoto's head, and Izuku watches as a black and purple mist envelops Toya and he vanishes, leaving Shoto and Izuku outside of UA. I've got to tell Fuyumi, Shoto grins, turning toward Izuku excitedly. I found Toya-ni. Izuku and Shoto walk back into UA, seeing a frantic-looking Aizawa and Hisashi running toward them. Where have you two been? Aizawa calls as Hisashi rushes over, scooping them both up. He hands Shoto to Aizawa and keeps Izuku in his arms. We found Toya, Izuku explains to Aizawa and Hisashi with a big grin. He had a lot of scars on his face and his arms, and he was covered in shiny metal, and there was a man made of mist and a weird guy covered in hands who told Toya to take us back. Aizawa and Hisashi pale at that description, turning to take Shoto and Izuku back into UA. After a thorough check from Recovery Girl, Izuku is surprised when the heroes sit them down and ask them a lot of questions about where Toya had taken them, about the misty man and the guy with the hands. Shoto seems a lot happier now that he's seen Toya, answering the questions along with Izuku. Eventually they get bored and squirmy, and Aizawa just sighs. Come on, let's go see the class. After all the questions, Aizawa brings Izuku and Shoto up to the dorm building where they first remember waking up. Izuku immediately runs over to Ochako and a few others, babbling about everything that's happened since he last saw them, but Shoto stays at Aizawa's side, looking wary of everyone in the dorms. The happy kid from a few minutes ago all but forgotten. Shoto, these are your friends, Aizawa says gently. They won't hurt you, I promise. Izuku stops his babbling to run over and tug on Shoto's hand. Come on, Sho. Tokiyami says he's going to show us Mr. Shadow. Dark Shadow, Tokiyami corrects gently. He is eager to meet you. Shoto and Izuku both gape as the shadow entity comes out of Tokiyami. Well, hi there, Dark Shadow says, making itself small as it crouches in front of them like a cat. Aren't you two small fries? Izuku giggles, reaching out to rub Dark Shadow's head. It feels sparkly. Fuzzy, Shoto agrees, petting Dark Shadow as well. I like Dark Shadow. They play with Dark Shadow for a while, Tokiyami patiently answering all of Izuku's questions about the quirk, while Shoto keeps petting. Oi, what are you two nerds doing here? A voice calls, and Izuku shoots up with a happy gasp. Kachan! He squeals, running over to the blonde teenager, tugging on his arm. Kachan, I missed you! Kachan looks a little red in the face, sighing as he leans down. Hey, nerd. Still a baby, huh, Deku? Izuku pouts. Not a baby, I'm 4, Kachan. I'm going to school soon. Yeah, I know. Kachan sighs. Look, Deku, don't cause Aizawa any trouble, okay, or I'm gonna tell your mom. Izuku pouts, sticking his tongue out at Kachan before running over to Shoto's side. The afternoon is spent hanging out in the dorms, baking with Sato, having fun with everyone, and watching movies. Shoto and Izuku color pictures for everyone in class, which Ida declares should be hung on the fridge. The class takes a ton of pictures of them, and Izuku and Shoto are happy to oblige. They relax and play with 1A for hours. Shoto slowly coming out of his shell. By dinner, Izuku is sitting on Ida's lap, and Shoto is snuggled up next to Kachan, to everyone's apparent amusement. Shut the fuck up, extras. Kachan spits, a little red in the face. Let the kids do whatever, they're just babies. Izuku pouts. I am not a baby, Kachan. Stop being mean. I'm not mean, nerd. You're just a little snot-nosed toddler. Am not. Bakugo, I swear to all that is holy, if you don't stop baiting a 4-year-old, you'll be scrubbing all the toilets in the storm for the rest of the year, Aizawa says, his tired voice cutting in. Eraser! Izuku giggles, running over to tug on the hero's leg. We drew you and Present Mike pictures, and Itoshi and Eri too. Aizawa smiles, softening instantly. That's great, kiddo. Hey, Shoto, come here. We found a way to change you kids back. Izuku's mouth drops open, grabbing onto Shoto's hand. He's a little scared at turning big again, but he nods. Eri's been practicing undoing her quirk, Aizawa says gently. She thinks that she can reverse the damage she did to you. Both Principal Nezu and myself are satisfied that it's as safe as possible and that you two will be fine. We can do it whenever you're ready. Shoto tenses, looking at Izuku before nodding up at Aizawa. Can we go to your house first? Izuku asks quietly, a little red in the face. I want to see Hizashi again. Sure, kiddo. Izuku and Shoto wave goodbye to the students in the dorms and walk hand in hand with Aizawa back toward the building that has their apartment in it. Aizawa, Izuku asks quietly as they walk, Are we going to remember this when we get big? I don't know, Aizawa says honestly. I'd like you both to remember. You've made some closer friendships the past few days, and you told us some things that you might regret as your older selves, things that we'll want to talk with you about. Izuku mulls this over, walking slowly next to Aizawa, sharing a glance with Shoto. Will Toyoni remember me? Shoto asks hopefully. Fuyumi says he's not around. I don't want him to go away when I get big again. Your brother's a complicated person, Aizawa answers honestly, but I think it's highly likely that you'll see him again. Shoto seems satisfied by this, and they all walk into the staff apartment building together. After a short elevator ride, Aizawa brings them into the apartment where Hizashi, Eri, and Hitoshi are all sitting on the couch. Izuku feels a little shy, but he waves at Eri, who waves back. Eri, honey, are you ready? Hizashi asks, and Eri nods, walking over to them both. I'm sorry again for the trouble, Eri murmurs, looking at the both of them sadly. But I can put you back to normal now. Wait! Izuku says, letting go of Shoto's hand, and he runs over to the couch, throwing his arms around Hizashi. Thank you, Izuku mumbles against the hero. In case I don't remember this, I want to say thank you. You were the best, you and Eraserhead. Hizashi smiles fondly, ruffling Izuku's hair. Any time, kiddo. Izuku pulls back with a beaming smile, before walking back to Aizawa, giving him a hug as well, while Shoto says his own thank yous. Before Eri uses her quirk, Izuku has one more person he wants to talk to. Sho, Izuku says quietly. We're still going to be best friends, right? Shoto nods. We are, I promise. They hug each other hard before turning to Eri hand in hand. We're ready, Izuku whispers. Eri nods, the small horn on her head is glowing as she puts her hands on top of their own. Izuku feels a strange rushing sensation as he grows taller and taller as his head is filling with memories that he's forgotten. Soon he is standing his normal height, in the clothes that he was wearing before Eri had accidentally rewound them, and he grins at the teenager that Shoto is to his right before looking back to his teachers. He remembers everything. Aizawa, Hizashi, All Might, and Recovery Girl, Kachan, and the rest of 1A. He remembers Toya, the villain Dabi, is Shoto's brother. He remembers snuggling Shigaraki, if that's not the weirdest thing in the world, but mostly he remembers safety and happiness. Thank you for taking care of us. Izuku smiles, squeezing Shoto's hand. And thank you, Eri, for turning us back. We owe you one. Eri grins, throwing her arms around Izuku's waist as they smile, both agreeing instantly when Hisashi asks them to stay for dinner. As Izuku sits around the table with the Aizawa Yamada family, he feels immensely grateful for everyone in his life. Hey, Izuku, did you actually hug Shigaraki? Shoto! All right, everyone. This concludes the short fic entitled Fast Forward Reverse. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I really like the bonding between Izuku and Todoroki in this one, and I'm a big fan of de-aging fics. So if you guys have any other recommendations for really good ones, make sure you let me know, and as always, thank you so much for listening.